Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we've got some absolutely insane news and rumors to talk about, and I'm not gonna lie, this one feels like something straight out of Madden franchise mode. We're talking about the possibility of Tyreek Hill to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah, you heard that right. Tyreek Cheetah Hill in black and gold, catching passes in Acrisure Stadium and putting the entire AFC on full-blown notice. Now, before we dive in, remember, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and stay locked in till the end because I'm breaking down how this would affect the Steelers' offense, what it would cost, how it changes the AFC picture, and whether this is just crazy fan talk or something that could actually happen in real life. So let's set the stage. Tyreek Hill is one of the most dangerous weapons the NFL has ever seen. We're talking about pure, game-breaking, you-broke-the-controller speed. A guy who can turn a basic slant or a simple motion play into a 60-yard touchdown in a blink. He completely changes the math on defense. Safeties have to play deeper, corners have to give more cushion, defensive coordinators lose sleep. Now imagine that guy in the Steelers offense lining up with that black visor, waving the towel, hearing "Here we go Steelers" echoing around the stadium. That visual alone has Steelers fans losing their minds. And honestly, it should have the rest of the AFC nervous. Now, how do we even get here? Why are people talking about Tyreek Hill and the Steelers in the same sentence? Well, every offseason and even midseason, you get these blockbuster trade rumors swirling, and teams that feel like they're just one piece away tend to be involved in almost every big-name conversation. The Steelers are one of those teams. They have an elite defense. Year after year, regardless of the quarterback situation, they're competitive. The one thing everyone has been screaming about: they need more offensive firepower. They need a true game-changer at wide receiver. They need someone who terrifies defensive coordinators, and Tyreek Hill fits that need about as perfectly as humanly possible. So let's talk about fit first. How would Tyreek Hill actually look in this Steelers offense? Picture this. You've got Tyreek lined up on the outside, or even in the slot, going in motion pre-snap like he did in Kansas City and Miami. You're forcing defenses immediately to shift, communicate, panic a little. The safeties are backing up, maybe they're bracketing him with a corner underneath and a safety over the top. That instantly opens up space for everybody else. The run game gets lighter boxes because you can't stack 8 guys near the line when Tyreek is one missed tackle away from 6 points. The tight ends get easier matchups. Your WR2 and WR3 suddenly have way more room to operate underneath. A quarterback who might not be elite suddenly looks much better because his margin for error is bigger. Throw a 5-yard pass to Tyreek and he might turn it into a 40-yard gain. And from a pure Steelers identity standpoint, it's fascinating. For decades, this has been a franchise built on tough defense, hard running, and then in the prime of Ben Roethlisberger, you had those explosive receivers: Hines Ward, Antonio Brown, Mike Wallace, Emmanuel Sanders, Juju in his early days. All those guys. The Steelers have a real history with top-tier wide receivers, but Tyreek would be something different. He's not just another good receiver, he's a system-breaking weapon. He turns the Steelers from grind it out, keep it close, into you might get blown out if you blink. That's a completely new vibe for this current version of the team. Now, we also have to talk about the quarterback situation because whoever is under center benefits massively from Tyreek Hill. When you have a receiver like that, throws don't have to be perfect to be deadly. You can design easy touches, bubble screens, jet sweeps, quick outs, option routes, deep crossers, off-play action. The offense becomes way more dynamic. Defensive coordinators can't just load up and dare the Steelers to beat them over the top. With Tyreek, that dare turns into a nightmare. Even if your quarterback isn't putting up MVP numbers, he suddenly has that safety blanket of explosive plays. 3rd and 7 doesn't feel impossible anymore when you can run a quick motion, catch the defense misaligned, and have Tyreek sprint into open grass. Let's put this in the context of the AFC, though. You look at this conference, it's loaded. You've got Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, you've got Josh Allen and the Bills, you have Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, you've got Joe Burrow and the Bengals when healthy, you've got the up-and-coming teams like the Texans with CJ Stroud. Every year, it feels like the AFC just gets more and more stacked on offense. For the Steelers, adding Tyreek Hill would be a direct statement. We're not just here to grind out 17-13 games and hope our defense saves us. We're going to score with you. We're going to punch back. It changes the entire perception of the franchise from dangerous wildcard team to legitimate contender that nobody wants to see in January. Now, what would this mean schematically for the Steelers? Imagine Matt Canada-type concepts replaced or upgraded with a modern, motion-heavy, timing-based attack built around Hill's speed. You can go trips to one side, isolate Tyreek on the backside of the formation, and force the defense to choose. Do you roll coverage to his side and leave the trip sidelighter, or do you stay balanced and risk one-on-one with arguably the most dangerous deep threat in the league? That's the kind of stress he puts on defenses. And in the red zone, he's not just a deep threat. He's lethal on those quick touches. Orbit motions, jet sweeps, shovel passes. You spread the field horizontally with Tyreek and vertically with his speed, and suddenly, even inside the 20, defenders are on their heels. But of course, we have to talk about the logistical side of this. How realistic is it? What would it cost? Tyreek Hill is not a cheap player. He's a proven star, he's got a big contract, and he's still playing at an elite level. To pry a guy like that away from his current team, you're not just sending a mid-round pick and calling it a day. You're talking about first-round draft capital, maybe more. You're talking about restructuring contracts, moving money around, maybe even parting with a young player. The Steelers are historically a bit conservative with blockbuster trades like that, especially for offensive players. They develop receivers, they draft well, they tend to avoid giant splashy trades. So right away, that history makes this feel like a long shot. But here's the counterpoint. The NFL is changing. Teams that go all in for stars can get rewarded big time. We've seen it. The Rams went all in, traded picks, and got a Super Bowl. The Bucs added Brady and then kept stacking the roster. The Dolphins themselves traded for Tyreek and immediately transformed their offense. The Eagles are aggressive. The 49ers swing for big names like Christian McCaffrey. The model of we're always just trying to be competitive and never taking a huge swing is starting to look a little outdated if you want a ring. So if there was ever a time for the Steelers to break character and say, you know what, let's go get a superstar, this kind of move would be it. Let's talk about what this does mentally to the rest of the conference. You know how players and coaches talk. Everybody keeps tabs on every move. If you're a rival AFC team and you see a headline scroll across the bottom of your screen saying, "Breaking, Steelers acquired WR Tyreek Hill in blockbuster trade," you're not just shrugging that off. Defensive coordinators immediately go into the lab. Divisional rivals start thinking, okay, now when we play Pittsburgh, we're not just worried about TJ Watt wrecking our offensive line. We're now worried about Tyreek burning our corners. The psychological impact is massive. It signals that Pittsburgh is done being just tough and scrappy. They're chasing trophies. And I want you to think about January football with this setup. Cold weather in Pittsburgh, swirling winds, the type of game where defenses dominate. And now out of nowhere, you have Tyreek Hill, the fastest player on the field by a mile, running deep posts and crossers against tired, cold defensive backs. One single busted coverage, one slightly late safety rotation, and the game flips in a heartbeat. The Steelers have always been that team where you don't want to face them because they're physical. This would add a totally new reason you don't want to face them. They can score in one play from anywhere on the field. Of course, we can't ignore chemistry. How would Tyreek fit into the Steelers' culture? This is a team with a strong locker room identity, a no-nonsense head coach in Mike Tomlin, and a fan base that demands effort and accountability. On the field, Tyreek is known as a competitor, a guy who plays with energy, swag, and emotion. You put that under a coach like Tomlin, and it could actually be a really fun, productive mix. Tomlin has a track record of managing big personalities, especially at wide receiver. Antonio Brown's best years came under his watch. He dealt with Le'Veon Bell. He's dealt with veterans and young stars. If any coach can blend a superstar receiver into a team-first culture, it's probably Tomlin. Financially, you'd have to make it make sense under the cap. The Steelers would likely rework deals, push money into future years, and trust that a window has opened where going aggressive is worth it. That's always the debate. Do you stay flexible long-term, or do you push chips in for a run while your defensive core is still in its prime? Because that's the other piece of this. TJ Watt, Minkah Fitzpatrick, that defensive foundation, these guys are elite now. You don't want to waste these peak years with an offense that can't keep up in big games. Giving them an offense that can hang 30 on any given Sunday changes the entire narrative of the franchise. Let's also look at matchups. Picture the Steelers facing the Chiefs in a playoff game. You know Mahomes is going to make plays. You know Andy Reid is going to scheme guys open. Historically, Pittsburgh's game plan would be, can we slow them down enough and hope our offense can grind out drives? But with Tyreek Hill in the mix, now you can actually trade blows. You can hit them over the top. You can say, you take one shot, we've got one too. Imagine a Mahomes versus Steelers game where Tyreek is on the other side of the sideline, facing his old team, looking to prove a point. That storyline alone would be must-see TV. Or take the Ravens. They've got Lamar, they've got that diverse run game and improved passing attack. The games between Pittsburgh and Baltimore are always physical and low-scoring, right? You give Pittsburgh Tyreek Hill, and suddenly those grindy 17-14 slugfests could turn into 27-24 thrillers. One little miscommunication in the secondary, and Tyreek is gone. The margin for error for Baltimore's defense shrinks. Every division rival would now have to rethink their entire defensive game plan when they see the Steelers on the schedule. From a pure fan excitement perspective, this would be one of the most electrifying moves in recent memory. Steelers Nation is already one of the most passionate fan bases in football. You give them a superstar offensive weapon, and you'll see Tyreek Hill jerseys all over Pittsburgh overnight. The atmosphere at home games would be wild. Every time he lines up wide, the crowd knows something crazy can happen. You'd see the terrible towels flying after every big catch, every big run. It turns every Steelers game into a must-watch event for neutral fans as well. Now let's be honest about the downsides and the risks. Trading for a superstar costs you draft picks, sometimes young players, and a big chunk of your salary cap. That limits your flexibility in other areas. Maybe you can't re-sign a certain role player. Maybe you have to plug depth holes with cheaper veterans or rookies. You're betting that Tyreek's impact will outweigh the long-term value of those picks. You're also betting that he stays healthy, stays committed, and continues to perform at an elite level for multiple years. Speed guys tend to age differently. Some hold it a long time, some start to slow down. So any team making this move has to be sure they're not catching the tail end of the peak. There's also the media storm. The moment a move like this goes down, every debate show, every podcast, every online conversation will be about the Steelers. Expectations skyrocket. Anything less than contending for a title will be viewed as a failure in the short term. The pressure on the quarterback, on the play caller, on Tomlin, on Tyreek himself, it all goes up. Some players thrive under that spotlight, some don't. But when you're dealing with someone who has already proven he can handle big games, Super Bowls, and massive expectations, you feel a little more comfortable taking that risk. So, bottom line, Tyreek Hill to the Pittsburgh Steelers would be one of the wildest, most intriguing, and most impactful moves of this era. It would shake the AFC, force rivals to adjust, and immediately raise the ceiling on what this franchise can accomplish. Is it guaranteed? No. Is it likely? That's debatable. But is it fun to imagine and serious enough to at least discuss as part of the new, aggressive NFL landscape? Absolutely. And if it ever did happen, you can bet the rest of the league would be watching that breaking news alert with a whole lot of concern. Let me know down in the comments. If you're a Steelers fan, would you be willing to give up multiple high draft picks and pay that massive contract to get Tyreek Hill in black and gold? If you're a fan of another AFC team, how nervous would you be seeing that trade go through? Do you think this kind of blockbuster is exactly what the Steelers need, or do you think they should stay the course and keep building through the draft? Drop your thoughts, your trade packages, your opinions. I'm going to be reading and responding to a bunch of them. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the idea of Tyreek Hill to the Steelers and how it would flip the AFC on its head, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss any of our future breakdowns, rumors, and analysis. We've got a lot more content coming, from trade scenarios to film breakdowns and everything in between. Thanks for rocking with me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.